Well, hi everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank those of you who alerted me to this story. This video is about the Tappan Zee Bridge in New York. There's been a lawsuit filed by state authorities against the joint venture contractor, so I'm going to go into details about what we know, what the implications are, and some of the background information. I mean, it's a relatively new cable-stayed bridge that was built from 2013 and completed in 2018 at a cost of over $3.1 billion. So it's a major project. Now this bridge replaces the old Tappan Zee Bridge that was in service from 1955 to 2017. The lawsuit was filed by New York State Throughway, and it was against the joint venture team of Fluor, American Bridge, Trailer Brothers, and Granite Construction Company. It's been reported that HNTB Corporation is acting on behalf of the state as owner's engineer. Now, full disclosure, I've worked with two of the construction firms that are named in this lawsuit. I've done many projects with them over the past, and in my experience, they're top-notch, high-quality contractors that you want on big, complicated projects. So I'll go through what we know. I'm a little puzzled about the absence of details in this filing of this lawsuit. So let's go through it. Now, the lawsuit alleges that there are materials that were used in the construction of the bridge that did not conform to project specifications or requirements. And according to this filing, the state has the authority to determine what's in conformance and what isn't. Of course, the contractor can challenge that. Now, the lawsuit also names the insurance company that provided the performance bond to these contractors. So the insurance company for each of these joint venture team members was named in this lawsuit. And that's because collectively a performance bond of $1.5 billion was issued. So under a performance bond, an owner can make a contractor or other companies hired by the insurance company to fix things on the bridge that may not have been built properly or had some other contractual problem. Although there aren't specific technical details listed in this filing, as I mentioned earlier, local media outlets have reported 61 of the total 192 suspension cable anchor pipes need to be replaced. And I'll just show you some pictures here. So this is cable-stayed bridge where they terminate to the side and below the bridge deck is the location of the suspension cable anchor pipes. And local media outlets are reporting that there's apparently some type of material issue. It doesn't indicate whether it's an insulation issue. It sounds like there's some material issue with these anchor pipes, and the retrofit supposedly is going to be the installation of a sleeve over these pieces of the bridge. Now, what hasn't been reported is why or how these 61 of 192 anchor pipes were identified as needing to be replaced. I'm really curious about that. New York State Thruway has assured the public that there's no danger to the bridge. This is a long-term material and reliability issue. The bridge has a design life of 100 years. Even though it's been in full service for 6 years, they say that this upgrade or retrofit needs to be done to ensure the originally planned 100-year life is fulfilled for this bridge. So this bridge connects I-87 and I-287 over the Hudson River. This portion of the Hudson River they call Tappan Zee. Give you an idea where it is relative to New York City. And there's been a variety of controversies associated with that bridge, including the name. It's been known as the Tappan Zee Bridge for a long time. The older bridge was renamed, but still everybody referred to it as Tappan Zee. And then politicians got it renamed to former governor in New York, but it sounds like the name's just going to revert to Tappan Zee as it has been for decades. Now, the joint venture contractors aren't taking these allegations lying down. Here's a news article, and it's got a couple of quotes from the joint venture contractor. They say the taxes and toll payer monies being used to pay the New York State Throughway Authority's legal bills will be much better spent on paying their debts and addressing issues with the 9% of the structurally deficient bridges that exist in New York State, Tappan Zee contractor said in a statement. And just recently, there's been contract disputes where the joint venture contractor asserts that they're still owed over $110 million, and that judgment came from non-binding mediation, apparently, and New York decided they weren't going to pay it, And so now you have this issue with the anchor pipes, supposedly. And again, they're short on details as to what's going on here. I'm extremely curious. Is it a manufacturing defect? Is it somebody wanting something beyond what was specified? Was there installation issues? Hopefully, these details will come out in forthcoming reports. And one of the past controversies on this bridge involved some failed high-strength anchor bolts. And this is an article that references that back in 2018, dozens of bolts that were holding the steel girders together had failed, and some bolts broke more than a year after they were initially tightened to hold the girders together. So the state of New York is proceeding with selecting a contractor to replace these 61 anchor rod pipes. It's going to cost millions of dollars. It's going to take approximately 3 years, starting next year in 2025. One thing I want to come back to is I mentioned that I had the opportunity to do foundation testing on this bridge during construction, and I thought about it, and then I was leery about doing work on a project with the authority being the state of New York as owner. I heard horror stories. I just didn't want to run the risk of having problems later on, even though, you know, I don't expect to have problems on any of my projects. I just know a lot of these owners, particularly in the northeastern United States, seem to be highly litigious. I just did a video about Rhode Island suing 13 companies over involvement going over 11 years on the Washington Bridge. And of course, they're not looking at any of fault that the Rhode Island DOT or the state of Rhode Island may have had in the events leading up to the emergency closure of the Washington Bridge, but there you have it. So I just never had a warm fuzzy doing work for some of these states. Frankly, federal agencies, I tend to not want to work with them either. So that's just me. I prefer working with private entities. So I'll continue to follow this story. I want to send a shout out to the channel members. I really appreciate your ongoing support. I also would like to send a shout out to those of you who have provided super thanks. That's another great way to support the channel. Check out the links in the description. I have free digital downloads for the biggest civil engineering disasters of the past 100 years. I also have an overview of NASA's Artemis program to return humans to the surface of the moon. Thanks for watching, everyone.